You know, you want them in order, you got to give them to me in order.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Texas. Wow, it was like a year ago that I felt like I was just here, really. And as I landed this morning, I got up I'm a little, I don't know, I'm not tired, but I got up this morning at 3:25 New Jersey time. So I had a 6 a.m. flight out, and as I landed here, I got a notification to check in for my flight tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to LAX. So I promised the guys in Banning last year that I would go to that show, but I didn't realize it was the same weekend. So what can I say? It's not a bad thing. Go to pinball shows on the weekends and build pinball machines during the week. It's kind of a wonderful thing, And really, thank you to everybody for putting this show on, all of the people that make this happen. We really appreciate it. And it kind of felt to me, this was like a Saturday, so I don't think I'm going to miss anything. If I'm not here on Saturday, it's going to be packed tomorrow. So you guys, good luck playing anything in that room. Because you get in there early and eat a good breakfast and make sure you don't drink too much, that you need bathroom breaks. Because if you're waiting online, it's going to be... How spectacular are all of these pinball shows? I mean, years ago, I don't know, Martin knows probably better than me. There were 5 shows a year, 4 shows a year, 3 shows a year, 6 shows a year. Imagine that there's 2 guys that run Pinball Expo. Here's a story for you. 2 guys run Pinball Expo, they're partners, right? They're doing something for more than 30 years? Okay. They're doing something more than 30 years. And Pinball Expo is great. They get a divorce, they fight with each other, and the net result is we get 2 pinball shows where there was 1 pinball show. So how good is that? I mean, really, think about that. How good is that, So we'll go to all of them. We'll go to Rob's show, we'll go to Mike's show. We'll go to every show that we can go to.
Pictures.
What you got up here, Butch? I don't even know what I gave you. Go ahead, let's go.
No, this isn't all of our
Okay.
pictures. This is just...
So tonight we have Butch Peel, the guy that brings you all the manuals, one of our very talented electrical engineers and former customer of the company. That's how he started.
Yeah.
And so he's here. And we're very pleased to introduce Eric Meunier, who designed Pirates of the Caribbean. So let's hear it for Eric. So let's see, what did you pull up there? I just pulled up a couple of pictures. So
no particular orders.
all these shows, talking about shows around the world, that's our distributor in France. That's Christophe. And there he is with his collection of games. And next month I'll be in Vienna for a show. I'll be in France for a show. I'll be all over the place. It's really great. It's a really wonderful thing right now. Okay, Butch, what do you got?
What else we got? Yeah,
I don't know.
playing around here.
Butch and I were just in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. We have the AAMA show, the amusement show, and it was really good. There were a lot of operators there. There's really none of you people there, not for the most part. There was a tournament going on, so there was some pinball people there, but not many. So people are still walking over to our games, and it says start, the button is flashing, and they don't know how to start the game. They're pulling the plunger and everything. But there was an operator that came over, and he was talking to me about why he should operate games again. And he's telling me about all the reason, young people are rediscovering mechanical things, and not everybody wants to play video games. And then he looked down and realized who he was convincing about pinball. And he was kind of surprised, and he said, who would have thought that pinball would come back like this? Who would have thought that? And I said, I did. That's why I started a company in 2011 to design and build pinball machines. So it's really cool to see it. Good.
Is that the guy you were talking to?
Yeah, that's one of our customers actually from Japan. So they're interested in pinball machines. Butch was giving him a lesson in pinball. That's our distributor from Oregon. Anybody know who those guys are? Jordan and his dad. So if you're in Oregon, that's the guy to buy the games from, not Butch. That's Terry Morse. Where'd that picture come from? Okay, longtime distributor. He's a good guy. He doesn't buy much, but he's a good guy. That's just our booth. Go ahead. I thought there was a couple others. That's not from me, is it? Really?
From you, that is definitely.
Sorry.
And I asked myself,
Keep
why are we
going.
putting that
What the
on?
hell is that?
I don't know. Maybe you got hit by a basketball off of that.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
We had a good time.
somebody's.
No, that's not what I want. So anyway, thank you, Butch. You're completely worthless. Yeah.
How about that?
I don't know who that is.
These are the things you sent me.
No, I didn't send you that.
I downloaded what you
Okay,
sent.
well, get rid of that.
Stop now.
All right, let me go to Butch next, and then we'll take some questions at the end. Anybody wondering when you're going to get your pirate game? Is that going to be the first question? So for those that want to go back and play, I'm going to say, we're going to be building games this summer. It could be a little earlier, but it won't be any later. So that's about when it is. We want to make sure everything's working. Butch, that's a great picture. Here.
Killing you. I only put in there what you put on your
Oh,
email.
that's Tim Arnold.
That's Tim Arnold, that's right. And that's kind of awkward, but
That is
yeah.
a picture I gave you.
Yep.
So what are you doing now?
What am I doing now?
What do you got going on?
Just finished the dialed-in manual, so that all of you that have a dialed-in game and have the limited edition, you can get a manual soon. It's at the printer right now. So
Kevin McHugh, you could come in. Kevin McHugh, where are you?
Paging Kevin.
Kevin
Paging
McHugh,
Kevin.
come on
there
in.
He is. Come on in.
There he is. There's a
Help him
Jersey
out.
guy
Help him
in the
out.
business forever.
Yeah, Kevin. He joined us at the Guns N' Roses concert at Madison Square Garden. That was very
He
cool.
did. That was great. He also broke his leg at IAPA. That wasn't so great. Everybody here's got many, many stories. There's a lot of stories in the Naked City. Go ahead.
We got
Why don't you
anything
get
else?
out of this and get in your stuff.
Well, my stuff is not my
Your
stuff.
stuff.
My stuff is his stuff.
Your stuff is his stuff?
That's right.
All right, well, then get into that.
That's what happens when
You
you're
only
working on
only have
Wizard
an
of
hour
Oz.
here. This is
Yeah,
why
exactly.
you don't work
What
with...
do you want to talk about, Eric?
You don't work with children and animals, so...
I don't know. We took a whole bunch of pictures as we were going through the design process of Pirates, and I thought that would be fun to show. So early
Go
Whitewoods,
find out where the phone, I'll plug it back in.
me hand fabricating parts for the game, welding my own wire ramps, forming my own plastic ramps, 3D
Use your inside
sculpting
voice.
and modeling, like the subways, and then actually carving them on a CNC and using a vacuum form machine to make my early prototypes and tweak and tweak and tweak. And so there's a lot of cool pictures like that. Spent a long time early on in the design process trying to come up with the game, because there's obviously...
He was talking about making a playfield. There it is, yeah.
Is it there? So I have a little toy in my machine shop called a ShopBot, and I programmed it to cut out playfields for me. So this is how I cut my first playfoot, my first whitewood. So I programmed the robot, went through, cut out all the holes, then I took a hammer and some inserts and slammed them in there with some glue and screwed all my parts down. Welded the ball guides and the flat rails and shot the game. Wired the game myself. The only thing I didn't do is program and make the sound and on the whitewoods. So it was a whole lot of fun. It was a very big learning experience. Pat is a very good machinist. He was able to teach me how to use all of the machines in the shop because as a electrical engineer, I hadn't used a lathe all that often or a mill. A little bit in my robotics classes, but so that was how Pat helped me learn how to do basically what we do. He showed me how to start a whitewood, how to machine parts. He had nothing to do with what shots go where on my game or what toys or anything like that. He said, nope, not my involvement, not my game, but here's how you make a plastic ramp from a flat sheet. So that was there we go. There's the first picture.
Yeah, that's what, I call that one a boy in his playfield.
So I cut several different versions of whitewoods, trying to refine the shots the best way possible. Getting that upper loop shot, I spent an entire week with about 4 parts on a playfield. That flipper, the flat rail, the inner loop flat rail.
Flat rails.
Yeah, there we go.
Now, everybody pay attention, because there's not only going to be a quiz on this, but you could do this at home too.
So hand forming the flat rails. It's 18 gauge steel, and I'm, super strong, so I bent it by hand.
Excuse me, sorry. It's got a
You can
little
bend
something
18
in my
gauge
throat.
steel by hand, it's not impossible. So I hand formed the flat rails according to my drawings and lined them all up, and that's how I started the whitewoods.
So these are the photos in chronological order.
Okay, so yeah, we'll see the evolution of the game in chronological order as we're going along.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Early wiring job. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. So in the design process, there's definitely lots of changes, lots of things. I had some really wacky concepts early on that weren't going to work. I had some other things in there that I took out because the game had enough stuff already, I guess. I used to have a drop target bank in the center, in the front, in the middle. In retrospect, probably didn't need that, so took that out.
That's the oldest trick in the book. You put a drop target assembly in, and that's the first thing you cut.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
What's this, Eric?
So this is, which ramp is it? I can't tell.
Oh, looks like it might be the start of a maelstrom ramp.
Yep, so the start of a maelstrom ramp. So drew the ramp, cut out the plastic, and then basically used a glue. It's technically a chemical that melts the plastics together to form the ramp and clamp them and hold them into place. And then after they dried, I was able to take it out, screw it onto my whitewood, and shoot it.
I didn't know there were that many Irwin clamps in the world. Look at all. What do you need to get your game going? I need 40 quick clamps. Can we get those? You're all
So
turned.
that was looking through one of the things that I really wanted to do in a game is have every shot be divertible or changeable. I don't like it when you shoot a ball one place and it only comes back one place. So the fork shot, the center shot right up the middle that feeds into the chest, I wanted a way to divert vertically but also shoot straight through. So there's an old school game, Junkyard, that has a mech that this was inspired from. And basically it's a straight through shot that these forks come up and the ball hits it and acts like a ramp. And that's kind of my Wolverine claw there as I was prototyping the different parts.
Mousing around does something like that too, doesn't it?
Around, yep.
Unveils a little ramp that
Yep.
makes a U-turn. Let's see what else we got here. Every one of these is turned 90 degrees for some reason.
So there's the first wire ramp that I made. Please don't critique how pretty it looks. It was functional. And that's what it was
That
made
end
for.
is really special right there, yeah.
So these are made out of brass, the first ramps, because they were easier to bend than steel and easier because I'm actually able to solder these instead of weld them, a little bit more malleable. So the first wire form ramps were made of brass, put them in the game, able to tweak them, and let me speed through these a little bit here. So I think that's the first completed whitewood where everything was functional, and you can see how things changed. The big wire form, I used to have it go over the upper play field, and I'm glad I didn't do that. So that was the skill shot. Changed it to make it easier for assembly, to make it easier to work on the game, and to make the game less cluttered.
Almost complete anyway. No spinning map mech.
No spinning map mech.
Every one of these is turned.
There you go.
There you go with your switch matrix, and there's where the ramp or the spinning map will be.
Yep. So this was in my office. I would go into the back and I would fabricate some parts and bring them back out to the office and screw them down and play with them and take them off and throw them in the garbage and make another one with a 10-degree tweak and keep pressing on.
Early drawing.
Yep. Early drawings with the subways and how the angles work and how different things go together. There's a lot of pictures in here. So, this was fun. So this was my whiteboard. This is a 6-foot by 4-foot whiteboard, I think. So I had this right behind my desk. And for the 2 weeks that I spent watching the 5 films, I got early access to the 5th movie from Disney, but not the actual film itself. They wouldn't give me access to that. I was able to read a self-destructing script. Not kidding. It went away after 3 days. So I had to read that, take notes, all the characters, all the different scenes, all the different boats and magic things that happen, and this was the whiteboard that I used to form all of the ideas for the game.
And you must have had a stool so you could write on the top, right?
Yes. Very funny bunch.
Oh, wait, another version of the whiteboard. What's this now?
That's a good question. I don't know. We'll go on from that.
And another version. Production, how's that going?
Great.
Change the subject.
All right, so started to add inserts to the game. And as you can see, these are not the final inserts. These are a couple different concepts that we had. Originally, I had the center of the playfield. Between the flippers, the inserts were set in a specific shape. Can anyone tell me what that is?
It's a little guy going. No?
Not quite.
Not quite?
So, again, this was my ignorance of the 5th movie. I had no idea what Poseidon's trident actually looked like. So I wanted the center of the inserts to look like a trident. And I finally saw an image of the trident. I used to have it look like, I don't know, the Little Mermaid's trident. Nice and clean and
That's
square.
sweet.
Right. And theirs is all barnacle-y and crustacean-y and off-center and things like that. So that's what the original inserts looked like in the bottom of the playfield. And then the different mode inserts all over the playfield, which we tweaked based on how we progressed with the rules in the game. So all of this stuff was very fluid as the game was being designed, constantly going back and forth between myself and Keith, coming up with rules and concepts of how we wanted the game to play and where we want to go with the code and things like that. So it's very malleable in the early design process. So I think this is my first whitewood with inserts.
And a big hole.
And the big hole. So we had mocked up the spinning disc, which when I walked into Dan Malter's office, who is the lead mechanical engineer on the project, and I said, have you watched these movies? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay. So there's this map that they have, and it's magical, and it has a whole bunch of plates that spin in different circles, and you have to align them in order to get to places unreachable by any normal map, like Davy Jones's Locker or the Fountain of Youth. I want to do that in a pinball machine. I want to have a spinning disc that has 3 different wheels that go in different directions and different speeds, and they can stop on a dime, and they can light up from underneath, and they have to be transparent so you can see the lights underneath. And he kind of just looked at me and said, okay, let's do it. And he came up with a really elegant design that is very easy to service, which is one of the things that I am adamant about on the games. They have to be serviceable because I grew up as a technician. Very adjustable and very easy to work on. So the mech we came up with is, that he came up with, is great. I'm really happy with it.
We found out when we were starting to build the first prototypes and all that that gigantic hole in the center of the playfield is very handy because you can reach through
It
and
was.
plug things in,
Yep.
and you don't have to flip the playfield back and forth. You reach
Yep.
through there and you can feed wires through. It works for great.
Yep. All right. We can keep going a couple. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
More
We don't
pictures
want to
of-
talk about the nut driver shot up there. That's okay. All right.
what else do we got here? So you can see it getting a little bit more busy underneath with the next versions of Whitewoods.
Lots and lots of inserts.
Yep, we haven't yet gotten to the final version, final Whitewood version.
Clear coated.
Yep, so I hand clear coated it to make sure things are going to work out the way I want them to and hold up, and I can draw on it. And
3D printer
There we go.
experiment. Not so much.
yep, so I have a 3D printer in the office, and that makes things fabricating things or testing ideas and concepts a little bit easier. This was originally what the treasure chest mech had. It was wire form instead of what it is now, which is stainless steel. It was hard to manufacture wire form that way. So we decided to go with some stainless steel, easier to form. What do we got here? This is
Your cannon.
the cannon. So the concept of the cannon came into play. Keith came into my office one day, and as I was rocking the ship back and forth, he said, you know, it'd be really cool if you shot a ball across the playfield. I'm like, yeah, that would be cool. And I sat and thought about it for a little while and said, okay, let's see what we can do with that. So basically mounted a cannon underneath the upper playfield that you can load through the door, and as the playfield rocks and tilts, that's how you're aiming, that's how you're adjusting the trajectory of the cannon and firing it across the game at the Dauntless. And it was the second or third shot, I think, out of that cannon where it just sunk straight into the ship, and we're like, all right, this is gold. This is going in the game. This is awesome, an awesome feature, and I think people really liked it. That is a mold for a subway. So that is something that I made in our shop, and then used a vacuum form machine to take a piece of plastic. So vacuum forming, you take a piece of plastic and you basically heat it up so it's super warm, starts to bow down in the middle, and then you have a big vacuum table that your mold sits on. Turn on the vacuum table, the plastic's really goopy, you slam it down over your mold and it goes, and then you have your ramp.
So this is a little bit of an animation to show how that is made using a kind of a speeding up of how
Yeah,
the
yeah. So there's how the ShopBot cut out the mold for
how you model
my-
it to
my
begin
subway.
with.
Yep. So lots of 3D modeling, lots of work in SolidWorks. See the different steps that are roughing out the wood, and then it goes through with a clean cut to mock it up. And then I spent, a couple hours hand sanding it to get it smooth and
And all the different angles that bit has to come at it, and how deep it goes in different ones, and the different planes and thing that it works in. So that's how that wooden mold was made. Piece of cake.
Right.
Ta-da.
So that's the tiny subway that feeds the vertical up kicker that jumps to the back of the ship. So that's the simplest piece of plastic in the game. The rest took a lot more time.
There's a picture of your vacuum form.
Yep.
This is working on the piece of the subway, I think,
Yep,
right?
that's the main subway in the game, making the mold for that.
I think I have a little video for that, too. Let me see here. Those are just JPEGs. Let's just go back to this. Beam me up, Scotty.
Oh, yeah. There we go. So there's a nice action shot of me in the shop. So the wood that I was using to make the molds is MDF, which has formaldehyde in it. So I was using a respirator and goggles, and it's pretty loud, so I looked like a cyborg when I was in the back. And
intense eyes.
yes. So, fun days in the shop.
Looks like you're working on your loop shot here.
Probably. Let's see here.
The dotted line put on the play
Yep.
field.
So just trying to nail that shot so that it's super repeatable and super fun. I think my best combo is 12 or 13 shots in a row. And that really plays into the rules. If you make combo shots in that inner loop and then hit the gold targets. So normally the rule for gold is you hit the gold targets.
This is how you test that shot over and over again.
Yep. Normally the rule for the gold targets is you hit the gold targets and a couple gold pieces fall out. If you hit the gold targets after making some loop combos, instead of just gold pieces, you get gold nuggets or gold bars or gold figurines that count as 5, 10, 15, or 5, 10, 25, etc. It takes 50 gold in order to get into Tortuga and start the Tortuga multi-ball. So making those inner loop shots into your gold stand-up targets is a good way to get into Tortuga multi-ball. What do we got here?
Looks like the height of the...
Ah, yes. So unfortunately, the world that I create has to live under the glass. So I had to keep checking to make sure that the molds and the sculptures all fit underneath the actual glass. And that's what I was doing here. With the rocking play field, have to take into account how far it pitches left and right and how far those little lanterns stick up. And I think I've got, an eighth of an inch before I hit the glass with the lanterns and all that stuff, so.
Tight tolerances.
Yep.
Your pop bumper area.
Yep, the Tortuga area, pop bumper. So there's 4 pop bumpers in the game, along with a slingshot in that area, so lots of action. That pop bumper right next to the out lane is, some people don't like. Some people yell at me for that, but I think it's pretty fun. You gotta be on your toes.
Here you go, some mock-ups of your...
Yep, first mock-ups from one of the sculptors, foam core mock-ups on what the different toys would look like. So we make all this stuff out of foam core so that we can test it before we make it out of plastic or wood. It's easier to cut chunks off of this with a razor blade.
Your ship.
Yep.
Black pearl.
Is this the, let's see, yep. So this is the bottom side of the final insert layout, final whitewood layout. So you can start to see, it's where there's just a lot of stuff in this
Lots
game.
of spotting holes
Lots
for
of
sure.
spotting holes, yep.
So every little pair up here of these is for a target to mount. You start seeing some of these need to be adjusted, so you circle them, and these two need to go away, or these two need to come a little more over to the right, that sort of thing. And there's your hole in the ship to shoot through.
So this was a fun one. This was what one of these spinning pop bumpers used to have on it. Now it has like guns and treasure. It used to have tankards and bottles. And this was something that Disney would not approve. Disney said, this is a game. And a game is something that children play, so it can have no references to alcohol. And I asked them, Mr. Mickey Mouse, have you ever actually watched these movies?
Have you ever ridden on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at the Disneyland and Disney World? There's a lot of drinking going on there.
So there are no references to rum or alcohol.
But guns are okay.
But guns are okay. Yes. And this was the way that the other pop bumper guy was originally sculpted and molded. He is ready for a brawl in Tortuga, right? He's got his dukes up. Sorry, this is a game. Children will play this game, and that condones violence. And again, I asked, Mr. Mouse, sir, have you watched these movies? So we wound up having to change that sculpture to a guy with his hand drawing his sword.
Ah, swords are okay.
And that was approved, but the dukes up were not approved.
That's nice.
Right.
First of all, that looks like my score up there, 25, yeah. Here's a first lit play field with some RGB LEDs behind those inserts. And a star field. You want to talk a little bit about your star field?
Sure.
It's not really in the game yet, kind of.
The Starfield board, we don't have it programmed into the game yet, but we're going to be showing constellations on there. Shots that are valuable at the time, or shots that you've made, or arrows, or we're going to do quite a bit of stuff with it. So
That many LEDs, yeah, the possibilities are
there's
endless.
72 LEDs back there, and that's one of the features that comes on the LE in the collector edition.
Does not have his dukes up. He's holding his sword, right?
Yep.
I like this too. This is a kind of detail that goes into the model making. This is footage from the film to show what the sides of that target ship should look like. And then how that translates into the artwork and the 3D sculpturing that goes on and all the decals that are attached to that and the railings, all that kind of stuff that goes into that. Lot of detail and trying to make it as much like the movies, which Disney's never seen, I guess. That's possible.
All right, so this is probably the inspiration for the topper on the collector edition. In the movies, the Black Pearl gets captured by Edward Teach, by Blackbeard, right, and gets put into a bottle. And I said, that has to be my topper. And we have to have a ship in the bottle, but it can't just be a traditional ship in the bottle. It has to move like it does in the movie, because they hold up the bottle and the Black Pearl's in there and it's on the waves and it's rocking. And okay, we got to do that. So that's how.
That looks like it's sitting on the edge of your bed and you're laying in bed there going, "Arr, yeah, it's my ship, maybe."
Yep.
I think yeah, there's your office.
That's my office. So that's my playfield collection.
That's your playfield, right?
That is my playfield. So surround myself with some really good games and get inspired. That's why I decorated my office that way. So lots of good stuff there to reference and look at. And
I think we have some video of the topper too. Let me see here. There's the early lighting. Right before we went into Expo.
yep.
Embedding RGB LEDs inside sculptures, not a lot of fun.
Not a lot of fun, but it gave a really cool effect. People really like those flashing lanterns.
I have to reluctantly agree. Let me see, I thought I had the... vacuum form, I don't know. I don't see the video, sorry.
That's all right.
Moving on.
What else do we have here?
Not much. You're about done. There's your trident still in there, right? It's just not in the inserts.
Nope. No trident there.
There's how you make a ship in the bottle. Same
Yep,
sort
so
of
there
thing.
again, I used the ShopBot to create a mold to make the first plastic bottle. That took 14 and a half hours to cut because of how much wood was to be cut away. And then I don't even know how long I spent sanding it, but it took a long time to chunk that thing out.
Here's the finals of some of your sculptures
So
there.
these are images that I had to send to Disney for approval on all these different characters and
There he is, no more dukes.
sculptures. Right, no dukes, but he's pulling a sword out to stab someone in the face, so that's okay.
Or cut something off, yeah. More
All right.
wiring.
Yep, wired prototype game.
Some of the final sculptures
Yep,
again.
final sculptures. First time we have a cabinet with some artwork on it.
Happy Fernando over there on the side, yeah.
3D printed treasure chest.
Actual treasure chest, handmade.
Mechanism inside the treasure chest that most people will never see, but what the sculpture mounts to. How the balls get in there and
3 lock optos, all that good stuff.
I think this was one of the first fully functioning games with everything on it, with art.
Almost all the art. Don't have any spinning map stuff just
Yep.
yet. There's your Starfield. Boy, that's really upside down, isn't it? Doom, doom. There we go.
Yep.
Spinning map. There's a Maelstrom ramp. One of the first times we put decals on one of those ramps. They're not the clearest, made out of those wooden.
Right,
Vacuum
so
form
those
things.
will be, again, those were from my molds, which is why they got that kind of like foggy look, which is why these ones still here do. For production, they will be crystal clear ramps made from production molds.
I'll talk about your barnacles.
So the barnacles, so the Davy Jones edition of the game, the collector edition, I really wanted to give people something extra special for the extra money.
Nothing says special like barnacles, let me tell you.
So we thought about the Dutchman and what makes it really cool and all the different characters that are in there, and Matt Reister and I discussed what could be really fun, which is encrusting barnacles all over all of the armor in the game. So the lockdown bar, the side rails, the hinges, just having this like forest of growth happening out of the sides of the game. And it turned out really good. So that's what the collector edition armor will have. It'll also have its own art package for the cabinet, artwork, and the play field.
Still doing the different button things around the button holes like that?
Yep. So it's got the button guards.
Built in too,
Built
so
in.
that's kind of
Yep.
different.
More early ramp shots and early game shots.
It's what we took to Expo pretty much, right?
Yep.
Ooh, better back off a little bit. There's your ship. All upside down, that's nice. I feel like Steve Ritchie up here putting things upside down. He was showing games on the ceiling last year.
All right. And then that is, we won Best in Show at Expo last year. So that was,
Moment of silence for Taro.
yeah.
Rob Anthony's dog died a couple weeks ago. Very sad.
All right. Well,
We're pretty much there.
yeah.
Take
So-
some questions.
That's how you design a game. Anyone can do it.
So, for me to say that I'm really proud of Eric and Keith and the whole team that designed this game would really be very little. I'm very happy. This was a theme that I wanted. I sold many of this theme in 2006 and 7 and 8. It's a great selling game. And I knew that if we got this game, we could really make something special out of it. So I'm really happy. You did a great job. Everybody did a great job. Anybody have any questions? Well, no? Anybody have any questions? Johnny Norman.
Can you and Eric master the game yet?
What?
Have you and Eric mastered that game yet?
What did you say?
Mastered it. Have you made all the modes and all the shots?
No, absolutely not. Have you mastered the game?
Mastered it?
Yeah, the game's still changing, right? So, new rules coming in and everything.
And there's new
right?
rules and stuff as we're progressing, so
If you want a lesson, Eric will give you a lesson.
I'll be happy to. Come to
That
the
guy in
booth.
the back. Am I gonna run or are you gonna run? Okay. Wait a minute, Alan. Wait a minute. Kevin, you can't control this guy or what? What's going on?
I have a big mouth. I don't need a fucking mic.
Alan, good thing, you know, they're gonna legalize marijuana in New Jersey, Alan.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Will the ship always be rocking, or will it sometimes be in a?
When you're playing it, it's always gonna be rocking.
Got that right? That's my question. Or will
It all
sometimes-
depends on gameplay.
but it's sometimes
Right
helpful.
now, the ship is always rocking. A couple of the wizard modes we're looking at in designing will have trying to balance out the ship, and with different targets and things like that. So, as of right now, it's always rocking.
Okay, cool. I've just been thinking about that. So.
And when can you get yours for launch party, right? How come you didn't ask that? Every single day, I get a text from Alan. If it's not one, it's 2 or 3 texts. You know,
Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate it.
great operator.
He's very sincere. My question, by the way, is what was it like to secure the license from Disney after Stern had done the game? What was that process like to convince them to do another Pirates of the Caribbean pinball?
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I started on that 2014, and then I handed it off to somebody else who finished it. It really wasn't a big deal. You know, these companies that own intellectual property, they make a lot of money licensing them. So if you pay them, you can get it. You know, some are more money, some are less. Some come with a lot of strings attached, some don't. Some come with more assets, some come with less. You know, I'm working on 2 licenses right now, and we're in development of 2 more games, aside from those 2 licenses that I'm working on. So I'm always thinking of what's out there. I have to say this, Kevin. I know this sounds bad, but to me, I've been thinking of this game since like 2011. So living it, you know, I just can't wait for it already. I can't wait for it. So I'm kind of like, it's different when somebody sees it the first time. I'm just, you know, can't wait. I can't wait. It's exciting. Yeah. Yes. Hang on.
The videos y'all are putting out, I love them. Are they going to continue?
Yes.
Awesome. The second part, you guys use the in-game camera during those videos. Can you say how that's going to be incorporated into the game?
We're going to use it for high scores to start with. And beyond that, I'm not allowed to say yet. But yeah, so our stream, we're going to do it every week. And people will be able to see and follow how code progresses. You know, Wednesday, for example, was the first time we had Wizard Mode number 2 in the game. And I think Keith actually got it during the stream, which was pretty cool. And that's the code that's out there on the games right now. So you can go out and earn Wizard Mode number 1 and Wizard Mode number 2. For movie 1 and movie 2. Any other questions about current game or development or anything like that?
What's your next game?
There's another one coming.
All right. Well, that's good. Everybody have fun. Thank you all. You know, without all of you, we don't have a business. We don't have a company. I got to tell you that us hearing all these really great comments, it's wonderful. It never gets old. And we are very humbled by it. And we're very appreciative of the loyalty and the trust that all of you put into us. And we just thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.